Okay, so this video goes into using machines for the upper body and how to make sure you're setting yourself up for success. So I'm using a simple bicep machine, and this machine's pretty good. So I want you to notice the angles of my arms here. So I'm not hyperextending my elbows. I'm going to almost a straight position, right? So you should be going through full range of motion, but not such a full range where it will hurt your joints, right? So like I said, this is a pretty good machine, but I have seen bicep machines out there where you set your arm on the pad like this, and then the handle, so see where the handles are, where my hands are, the handle will be way down here. So technically, to get into that position, you would have to hyperextend your elbow to go down and grab it. So you'll see when people are getting into these machines that they have to stand up and pull the weights up and then sit down so they don't hyperextend their elbows. That's just a bad design. But those machines exist. They're out there, and hopefully you're setting yourself up for success so you're not hyperextending your elbows. So there you go. My arms are pretty straight. It sets myself up for a good position, so I'm not going to get injured there. So keep that in mind with whatever machine you're using. Make sure you're not going to hyperextend your elbows or do anything else that's putting your joints in a bad position. So that right there is pretty specific to a bicep curl. Next we'll get into pressing and fly machines and how to make sure you're also using the right mechanics on those so you don't mess up your shoulder joints. Getting into pressing and making sure you're lining our joints up in the correct way. So in this video at the time, I actually had a little bit of an overuse injury in my shoulder. So when you have like an overuse injury, maybe it's from playing sports, maybe it's from maybe working out too much, maybe something just happened. It happens. It happens to all of us. It's possible. So that's where machines can come in. They're great for rehabbing a muscle and kind of controlling the situation better. But again, you got to make sure you know what you're doing. So what I'm doing, notice how my elbows are tucked down some. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, I'm making the weight lighter. Of course, don't use too heavy of a weight. So I'm situating myself so that my elbows are in line with my chest. And there's a downward angle between my shoulders and my elbows. So you should have a downward angle in your upper arms. So if you were to look at me from behind, I should be making like an arrow shape out of my body, kind of like push-ups. So if you go look at my push-up video, the same mechanics apply here. And if you look at my hands, I'm pushing with the heel of my palm into it. So I'm not really flaring my wrists either, right? So my wrists are stacked into the machine right now. Also notice where the handles are in relation to my chest. So if I draw a line, handles are just about in line with my nipples. That's exactly what we want to see. And then you just press straight in front of you from there. So 2 parts on how to make sure you're doing that. So make sure you have the seat set to a good height for you. And even if the seat's at a good height, you're going to have to make sure you're making an effort to keep those elbows down. Okay? Another way to think of it, think like your elbows are driving. They should be perpendicular to the handle. So driving the elbows into the handle. All right, so these are good reps. I demonstrate a bad rep. So notice this is elbow flare. My elbows are starting to come up. I'm getting toward a T shape in my body. We don't want that. You want to try to get the arrow shape in your body. So that's a better rep there. All right, so getting into chest flies using a machine. This also applies when you're using dumbbells for chest flies. Like I said with the pressing video, you want to have your hands and elbows in line with your chest and nipples. So you shouldn't have your arms way up in line with your shoulders. You want to have them dipped down some. Also notice how my elbows are bent a little bit. This also protects my elbows. So from the front view here, right, my hands, the handles, are coming right out in front of my chest, not in front of my shoulders. So if they're way up here, then it'd be in front of my shoulders. Notice, I'll rewind it. Right? So we call this soft elbows. My elbows are bent slightly to protect my elbow joints as well. Right? So not a perfectly straight line, but as you can see, my fists, elbows, handles are in line on my chest. That is good. That is good mechanics. That's what I want you to use when you are doing chest flies in the machine. Also when you're doing rear delt flies. So if you're facing the other direction, this is also what we're looking for. So again, you have to be conscious of when you're doing the exercise, but you will also have to set the machine up, the seat, the handles, so that you're in these positions. So I'll move the seat lower, and you're going to see how this sets me up into a bad position. So now it's pretty much all shoulders. It's not what we're looking for. There you go. That's how you use upper body resistance machines.